Greetings, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. Chester here, 45Y music producer and composer. Got another deep dive for you. Yes, it just so happens to be another Spitfire audio library. I have no idea why. I've done quite a few of those and still have yet to move on to a new slew of companies and libraries everywhere. I'm just trying to feel this out and get good at this. So I've stuck to kind of one library right now and just keep practicing, keep working and churning these out. So I have no affiliation with Spitfire. I'm not sure why we keep doing these, but it just feels good. These are libraries that I've worked with for a long time and been able to kind of figure out and understand. So we'll keep it going. We have the Ólafur Arnalds Composer Toolkit, and I just used it recently on kind of like a demo or something from my demo reel where I stripped audio of old Coldwell Bank commercial, and then I just practiced and made some music on it. So let's begin. Let's get started. All right. So Ólafur Arnalds Composer Toolkit. It starts out just kind of being marketed to us as felted grand piano. If you saw the price though, you'd be like, yo, I'm not doing that. Just for a felted grand piano where there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of piano libraries out there. You know, what's this one got, right? Well, I'm here to tell you it's got so much more. It's not just this. That's why I get a little confused. It just comes in like this. And then anyone who's been kind of reviewing it, they just kind of give you that piano. And so here, let me full camera for 1 second and have just a little one-on-one with you here. I don't have an official what this channel is about or who am I or how any of this works. So we're going to take a second just to talk about that. As I start working this channel and understanding what my purpose is on YouTube and why anyone would want to even watch me, I think it came down to, and it's coming down to, I am peeling back one more layer of the onion that you're getting on YouTube when you're looking at sample library reviews, when anyone's covering this stuff, or when everyone's showing you a walkthrough. That's great. I love what's out there, and I hope that it continues to keep happening and they have that available for anyone who watches, including me. I watched those videos and I learned from them. But there's nothing like using a library and using it so much that you really get an understanding for it and then share that with someone. That's where I come in, right? I am showing another layer as we peel back the onion, and I'm just saying, hey, here's some ways you can use this library, and I hope that works for you. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. That's where I come in, right? Let's keep going. I haven't looked at those demos, actually. I'm going to after this video. Good walkthrough. This is cool. If you're a nerd like me, gear nerd, this is Ólafur Arnalds' studio. He talks about this studio in a YouTube video. I'll hopefully have the link for you and you can geek out on it like I did, but he's got some really cool gear. This in particular, he talks about what this is, and that was awesome. I do suggest maybe reading in some of these when you get a chance and you have this library, because the way that they talk about how they've kind of set this up was pretty cool. And it's good in context to know when you're kind of pulling from these samples and using them, how they kind of recorded it. It helped. And then they have the collection. This is actually how I ended up, I think, getting all of his stuff. I eventually went collection, but not at first. See? Comes with a lot of things. You scroll down to the bottom, boom. Look at all this synthesizer stuff you get. This is awesome. Are you kidding me? You get the felt grand piano, but you get a lot of stuff. I'm telling you. I'm telling y'all. We'll have fun with it too. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll have fun with it. Tech specs. All right. So I just highlighting this real quick before we have some fun. Just make sure that you got the latest and greatest. I don't have the latest and greatest. I don't know why I keep saying that. You just got to be at least here. You got to at least be here. You're good to go. Keep in mind also you have this amount of space, which I do think is pretty reasonable for what we're getting in regards to not only that piano, but also the synths. I think this is pretty much expected here. And then you need Kontakt, right? So make sure you're equipped with that. And the toolkit sounds great with all his other libraries. Who would have thought? And this, I just copied what I kind of made, and then I just started adding a bunch of this toolkit in here to go over it with y'all. So this is the piece that I wrote for that commercial mock-up, just to kind of show where I'm at with my composing chops. And I'm not a really good piano player. I can dabble. I can keep up. I kind of wrote this with Scalar at library, and then I know how people write things. I study like crazy. So that's kind of how I got by and how I made this song. All right, so now that we're in the DAW here, this is the project that I used to create this commercial. And I stripped out everything, but I just left kind of Ólafur Arnalds and roughly what we have with it. All the Audio, I think, is the company. They made this free piano. If it's still available, pick it up. I highly recommend it. It competes with what we're about to talk about with this Ólafur Arnalds, and it was free. I can't believe it was free. It is a fantastic library. I use this so much. It looks like this. It even looks cool. All the Audio Memoir piano. Like, look that up. If that's still free, get it. And if I can find the link for you and put it in the description, I will. But I have that blending with the Ólafur Arnalds piano. So let's just get started and talk about the piano here. There's not too much to talk about here, but we can get a little deeper than anyone else on YouTube. All right, so we go to the top here and you get this felt grand piano. You get two options. We get mic'd up, where you can adjust the mics yourself. I like that one, but I also like the mixed one too. Actually, sometimes I kind of combine them both. Or you can go individual mics, which kind of ever one you want there. But let's talk about mics here. That's the one that's loaded. And you have the 84 or the ribbon, the Coles ribbon. And that's why I said I suggest reading the website, because he talks about how they mic this up and processed it afterwards. And I'm not always kind of remembering. I just use my ears and remember that way. So I'm going to turn the 84 down all the way. That's the close mic, by the way. And now we just have the ribbon, which they said they recorded under the board and processed it. And it sounds good. It's got a lot of great ambience to it, which is good for like an ambient piano. So I have that all the way up for this piece because it's a very intimate piece where the piano is the primary instrument. And we do add a little bit of that 84. I have it about halfway, but let me turn down the ribbon mic and just play the 84 a little bit so you can hear that. Sounds good, right? All right, so I put that about halfway, and then I put this all the way up just for this piece. I would change this up so much. That's why they are macro knobs. And easy for me to just dial in when I need them, right? And I really like the way that this just worked out. All right, I'm not in any key. I have no idea what I'm playing. I'm just showing you how it sounds. So that wrong note was intentional. Let's go over what we have here as option. First, let's talk about this pedal dynamics and pedal volume, what that is. What's cool is if I hit this wrench gear, I have this auto pedal volume, which is usually on by default. And if I look down here at the bottom, I'm pointing at my screen. It says toggle whether or not pedal volume. I'm putting my mouse down here, but you're going to see it moves. That's why I pointed. Toggle whether or not the pedal volume is controlled automatically via note velocity. So it's using the velocity that I hit, and it's automatically adjusting that pedal dynamic, okay? To soft, medium, or hard. I have turned that setting on or off, and I didn't get too much of a difference where I cared. You either want to control it or you don't. That's up to you, right? So just consider that when you're working with pedal dynamics and volume. And so I leave it alone. I let it go by velocity. I thought that was fine, and I'm performing the piano most part, so I'll let that work. Pedal volume right here is adjusted however you want that. It's a pretty soft thing. You hear, but it's not significant. So just kind of set that where it feels good for you. And then I have dynamics and expression, and I did set them for this piece. I really need to dial in some things. Typically that's on my MIDI board here, and I just work it that way. But in this piece, I didn't. It didn't seem like they really did much anyways. They're very subtle effect there. All right, and that's pretty much the options that we have with the piano. Oh yeah, reverb. Can't forget about that. And with this ribbon mic, that's mostly my reverb. But here's the thing about ambient music and from my shoegaze days, it don't hurt to have more than one reverb, all right? and watch. So I have the ribbon, which is producing a little bit of space. I have reverb here, which is also introducing a little bit of space. I have a reverb here with Valhalla Room, which is also giving me a little bit of space, and it kind of gives me a little bit of mix too. I use it for just the way it sounds. Gosh, it always does wonders for me when I insert that as an insert effect. And then I have a piano reverb here, which is a shimmer, and that's a return. So I'm sending that a little bit to it and giving it something. So there's like, 4 reverbs on this felt grand for this piece. And I'll give you a little bit of what that just kind of sounds like in the mix here. Okay, so it's all subtle. I'm not adding way too much reverb. I'm not drenching it. I'm just applying it here in little ways. And each reverb is serving a purpose to the overall need here, because one piano playing throughout an entire commercial, I needed something going on with it. So I used multiple reverbs. Macros that I have here, we have the mic set up. I have the expression dynamics. I would be taking that off. If I had a new project, I would have my OTT here, like I always do. The OTT though it's a problem with this library. We'll talk about that very soon. Low pass filter, that's standard. That pedal volume, I have that kind of set up. And then the reverb of Valhalla Room is what's being controlled here. That's why you see it in the blue. If it was the reverb of the Spitfire instrument, I would have it as the colors of the Spitfire instrument. Let's talk about my caveat. We're going to hear it better in another, we'll actually hear it better in this next one. So let's just go to the other option for piano, which is the mixed option, where the microphones are already mixed for us. There's a good balance of those two, and that's what we get here. And I have a chord, MIDI chord going when I play that ninth, that minor ninth. Ooh. Love that. All the other options are the same. We've already gone through them. The only other difference is with this mix, you have that, and then you also have this, I call it an effects mix, but it's with this SP, I think of it as special mix. It's actually space reverb, or space echo, sorry. With some other things. If you read about it, you'll know what it is. I always forget. It's that special Ólafur Arnalds, the Ólafur Arnalds special that you order off the menu. Right? It sounds good. But here is what you're hearing. You're hearing it. You got to be hearing it by now. If you have headphones, you definitely are. If you don't, that's okay. I'll tell you what it is. Play it again and I'll tell you. Tape hiss. This library, and I hope I'm not like exposing something I don't need to be, or starting a conversation that I wasn't looking to start. That tape hiss, I have no control over it. This is multiple times I've gotten this in Spitfire libraries. And here's the thing about it is you go on YouTube and you research these libraries. Go to Spitfire, watch like Hamid like use this library, watch Paul Thompson use this library. I don't hear that tape hiss, but I do hear it here, and I do hear it when users are showing this library. And I don't know if they know, because they're on here. They'll be like, this library is beautiful. Listen to it. And I'm like, well, I can hear it, but I can also hear your tape hiss that's going on, and it's not being controlled. So the release is just not working quite right with their compositions. And I struggled with that in this demo that I made. Here's the thing about it with this library. So in an orchestra, I have a problem with it to a certain degree. With this library, I have less of a problem with it, because the grand piano that I'm playing, and the reason why I choose this library 9 times out of 10 is the characteristics that it's giving me. I'm going to go back to the mic'd one where I can control that mix. Less tape hiss. We don't hear that, right? But we hear it sometimes. I hear it in this note. There it is. But there's so much character in the way that it's played that it's the option. It's what I'm seeking at that time and what I'm going for. So I definitely grab it and I say, congratulations, you are a piano layer in my composition. Oh, it just, the character sounds really good. So the tape hiss I can live with. I do need to control it though. I'm adding a lot of low pass filter on things. Luckily, it's a felt piano, and they're a little more forgiving when you add the low pass filter or when you start EQing that higher range, because it's not ringing, it's not singing like a piano without felt does. It can work, and it works a little easier, and it's a little more forgiving in this way. I'm cool with it, but with this commercial, I didn't want like the tape hiss. I just wanted like a nice intimate felt piano. So when everything's all said and done, I probably would have grabbed a different one. Labs has a free one. It's called Soft Piano, I think, Soft Felt Piano or something like that. I would probably just use that as long as there's no tape hiss on it, something like that. But the difference between that one and this, and there isn't much, but there is one thing. This is a grand, so it's got more of like an open sound to it. Oh, it does really well in ambience, in space. This library does a fantastic job in space. And it sounds so good. I think where its strengths are is when you play it very soft and you have just a really nice, soft, subtle, like spacious sound when you're like playing it real quiet. And you get like real nice, gentle, soft notes from it. And then it just kind of comes alive. It really does. That's the piano, and that's my take on it. Otherwise, it's a great piano. It's a great option. Like I said, 9 times out of 10, if you're looking for that character, this is the piano. The one thing is the tape hiss. Once again, how do I control that and how do I manage it? And why didn't I hear it on Paul Thompson's walkthrough or any of the other Spitfire artists? That got me scratching my head a little bit. Do they have a different piano that we don't? Did they manage it in a way that I don't know about? We'll have to stay tuned because I hope to have an answer for that tape hiss on any of these libraries. And we go into the other options besides the felt piano. Quite a grab bag of really great things to use. And I was hoping this video wasn't going to be very long, but it is. It's always long. I don't know how to talk about this in like 5 minutes. All right, so if we go into like this organic warp, we get some options here. And one of them is the Kalimba. And this is a really cool Kalimba. It sounds really good. It has 2 mic options, probably very much similar to that of mics and effects. So if I turn mic 1 down all the way and I just have 2 and I bring that all the way up, we have our friend the tape hiss again. That's okay. It's actually different. This is not the same type of microphone that we've heard, that special, the Ólafur Arnalds special. But it's got characters and quality to it. Let's hear what the other one sounds like. It's probably got different characters and quality. Yeah. So that other one was it's got more of that shrill, more of that high end. And more of the clarity. And the first one just has that mellow, soft, rolled off sound to it, but we still hear the tape hiss. I can definitely hear it. All right, so what I had there, I guess, was a little mix like that. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but we'll go with it. And this UI that we see here is different than what we've seen in the past and what we've seen with piano in this toolkit. But this is what Spitfire was calling the Mercury engine, synth engine. It's pretty simple actually, and I wouldn't be too afraid of using this anymore. At first I was always like, what is this? But then they had the eDNA engine and now they have their UI. And this is probably one of my more favorite ones since they've been diving in and making all these fun things, because it is actually more simple than those things that I just mentioned. What you have here is your low pass, high pass filter. That's pretty great. And you can actually assign these to your macros or to a knob or fader that you have in front of you on your desk. You have the ADSR, which we love that. You have a portamento glide, and you can assign that. And so if you ever need that, you have it. I don't know if I would use it for this specifically, but there might be a case one day where you do. But we'll talk about the rest of these when I go into synthesizers. I'm just now kind of realizing we have a Kalimba in front of us. And the one thing I would say about this is with Kalimba, a delay would sound pretty awesome on it. Right? And we have to hold command if you're on a Mac or control if you're on Windows, hit that delay, and then with a click, and then we now have the options of this delay, and you can kind of now dial it in. I'm going to go back though, dive into this deeper, another in future things. But with the Kalimba, you can assign some of these effects. They kind of go after all these options, and then you have the affected outcome. And these are inserts at the end there. So you can choose these. The thing I would say about these is when you go into command click or control click, when you go into these are not assignable. I can't get these into macros, and I cannot MIDI assign them to CCs. That's a bummer. But what I can do, assign them to this yoke, which is an XY pad. I do have to think about this very thoroughly and make some decisions. Luckily for the Kalimba, I would maybe just do that in a convolution, and the convolution I can just set and leave alone. Pretend I did, and I like that. And then with delay, I'm like, all right, well, with delay, I will set one of these to, I have to do up here. I go delay, I'll set this to dry wet, and the X I'll set to delay again, and time or something like that. These are MIDI assignable. So if I right click on these, then I can assign them. And they're already assigned, so we're good to go. So now I can set them as macros, which is awesome. So that's how you would set these up to be macros if you need, but you got to make that decision. What are the two most important parameters in this effects chain that you want to assign to MIDI? Do that, and then you'll be good to go. A lot of the times, it's not for the Kalimba, but for like synthesizers as we go, I use phaser. And I set time and depth. But Kalimba, I would probably do delay or the reverb. Enough about a Kalimba. I've never talked about Kalimba that much in my life. Space piano. Sounds good. So what I've done here real quick is I have good use of this wobble. So if I took all these out, it just sounds like a really processed reverbed ambient piano. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but you set all of these wobbles, this volume pitch filter, which I have as macros typically. I don't in this for some reason. I set them very, very wide or very slow, if you will. The LFO or frequency, sorry. And then I just apply just nice amounts. And now we have something different. That pitch is a little too wild. I'm back off a little bit. I want it to be just enough. I call it the breaking point. That's why I use one of my pedals. I get that setting, and then I'm like, oh, that's it. And then too much is too much, too little is too little, but like breaking point. That's what I call it. That's what I'm calling it here too. That's different than what we originally start with, right? That's why I like the Mercury engine. You can get there pretty quickly. Another thing we can do here is we can throw this amount all the way up on volume. And once you increase this, get a nice tremolo. And you can ascend that to like a max for live LFO. You can have fun on this. I'm telling you. And then notice there's only one mic. There's typically one mic going forward with the synths and with these really fun options. We'll look at one more here, and then we'll move to synthesizers. This Evo Ambience. The one thing that I'll say about this is another fantastic option for pairing with something. And we did a video a while back on ambient guitars. And this kind of reminds me of that space that Spitfire was in when they made ambient guitars. I think that this patch or patches like this from the toolkit will work really well with that library. And I actually would love to spend one day when I'm kind of making patches and thinking of things and in combining these two libraries together. Actually, at one point, I think they both would go well. And that's the thing about this grab bag or this toolkit is I think a lot of these patches actually can go well in regards to teaming up with other libraries for results. Now, here's where the fun begins. If you're a synth nerd like I am, these synth patches are the bread and butter of this library. I'm going to say that right now. I really, really am a fan of these, and specifically around the Juno 60. That I did say in one of my videos that the Andromeda is one of my top favorite synths. This is another top favorite synth of mine is this Juno 60. Turn it down a little bit. I do like turning it up a lot, but with this ninth chord, it's getting hot. These wobbles, this is where it's at, I'm telling you. And then if you want to have some fun, grab this phaser, get in there. Slow that speed down again to that real slow, and then depth. Find where that you want that depth. If you can't hear it, turn that speed up. Now you hear it, right? And maybe that's what you want. Turn that down, and then bring that speed down. Now it's going to do that, but it's going to do it very slowly. And there you go. You have some fun things to do with phaser. And so I like phaser for movement. Chorus is another good one. And again, with the phaser, I would probably assign these to that yoke. So speed and depth. Oh. Phaser, speed and depth. Try those out. Or if you think your speed is, you're like, there's no doing anything else. There's feedback. There's wet. You got some options here. Just you're gonna have to do a little bit of planning. What are the two most important things you want to automate or move around as settings throughout your piece or throughout your idea, and you use the yoke for that. Just pop in a few stock plugins or something down here, or any plugin that you have that you need, and then assign that macro that way. You'll be fine. Yeah, that Juno sounds really good. And then another favorite of mine that I've used quite a bit is the Sub 60. I like it for layering, and I don't believe it's a true sub per se. The lower I can get in those octaves, it does kind of break a little bit and it kind of splits up. But when I layer it in that like lower mid or lows, start getting like low in the frequency spectrum, and I need a little more something there, this is what I grab, and I use this. I use this to layer all the time. This is a great layering. Great layering option, and also it does pretty well with some of the effects and some of the options you have here. So definitely play around with this one too. And then the final thing that this library offers are these I call them textures. It's called something else in the library. Let's look at it. Sonic warps. It's these warps. I just called them textures because that's kind of what they are. They're kind of like recorded performances from synths in his studio, and then they put them in this, Mercury engine. And so as you can see here, I played with volume, pitch, filter again, gave it some movement. And here I'm playing with delay, wet, and time, so. Ooh, that one gets loud, doesn't it? When you hold that out. That's good. That's good. All right. I'm awake. So you can have fun with this. Now that I've been able to kind of mess around, spend some time on this Mercury synth engine, I actually dig it. And I do dig setting up the macros with it, because once you start thinking about the sound, and my macros are different each time. So that's why I didn't show you, like in the past videos that I didn't show you kind of that combo, that classic combo, because there isn't one here. A lot of these synthesizers, they kind of just do different things. And so I find myself reaching for different tools each time, but the goal is always the same. How can I slowly progress this patch over time? Even these textures. Yeah, I still feel like we need to bring it and make it our own, right? And so it adds some movement. That's a surefire way of getting yourself there, right? And then grab one or two effects, just slap them in, feel good about it. Maybe one is like a stationary one where you just set it, forget it, and then another one, assign a couple options on the yoke, and then set those as macros and have fun in your composition. That's pretty much the library here. I was trying to make this a really quick review, and this library is deeper than it looks, and that's my problem with it. There's so much you can do with it. It does a lot, and it does a lot well. So with that said, I really enjoy this library. This library has been used a lot in a lot of productions that I've made. I also am always at the point of where I need to tweak it a bit and kind of make it something that I need it to be. And that's what I love about it the most, is it starts with Ólafur Arnalds, but it ends with me, and I'm tweaking and I'm working with like what he gave me, and then I'm composing and making the end result. I think this library could be like a 200-ish price range, thanks to the synthesizers and what you just get overall in general. I would always wait for the sale though, trust me, and I'm going to say that forever. Just wait for the sale. This is a good library. It's more than just the felt piano. I don't understand why we have tape hiss all over the place with this one too, but we do, and maybe I'm okay with it, but also at the same time, Spitfire, why don't we see it in your walkthroughs? That one got me. I hope this review is helpful for you. I hope if you own this library, it's inspired you in some way to pick it up again and use it and try it out. And if you don't have it and you only thought that this was just a piano library, it is that and then some. It's so much more. And if you have piano libraries, if you love the free piano libraries that are out there, if you have a ton of synthesizers, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of synthesizer patches out there. Don't get FOMO on me, and don't worry about this library. Who am I? I actually am on a few libraries. 10 years ago plus, I helped make the Geratin Yamaha CFX library. I was QA, and I also got to help make some of the design decisions on routing, how the effects would route in that library. I was an employee of Make Music back then for a couple of years. I got to dive into that world and kind of understand a little bit. I am still a nobody, but it's a nobody who you've stumbled on here on YouTube in the rabbit hole. Gosh, you're deep if you see my videos. But in any case, once again, thank you so much for watching and supporting. The channel's kind of having fun, and I'm having fun with it. So hopefully we see it get there. Once again, thanks. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.